What's up, everyone? I'm Thomas J. Beleza, and welcome to The Right Mindset. Today, we are going to go over the 27-point outlines, but a specific section, Section 1. So it'll be Act 1, Section 1. What we're going to do is we're going to try to discover the purpose of this section of your outline and what you should be accomplishing with your narrative. Additionally, I will give you an example of how your Act 1, Section 1 block should look like for the movie Shawshank Redemption. Let's get into it. A massive thank you to everyone who's been watching these videos, especially of the channel, and supporting it by liking, commenting, and sharing on the content. It means a lot to me, and I'm just proud to be a part of the community, especially on Twitter and YouTube. Which brings me to, if you're new as a writer and you want to learn a little bit about the craft of writing, or you're an advanced writer or a screenwriter, and ultimately you're interested in developing an understanding of the industry, the craft itself, and hearing from fellow authors, why don't you subscribe to the channel and click that bell icon so you don't miss out. All right. Now, I'd like to do a quick recap of Act 1, Section 1, just so we understand it. If you haven't already, though, you can go back and watch the entire breakdown of the 27-chapter outline, which, by the way, remember, Kat O'Keefe created, or at least the way it looks like, I believe she developed the 27-chapter method, and she's genius for doing it. I love the way it kind of really articulates each point of a story and really gets it out there. Her information for to follow her YouTube channel, it will be in the description below. A quick recap is ultimately you're trying to set up the ordinary world. Point 1 of this section would be the introduction to set up the ordinary world. This is basically you saying, hey, this is where they live, this is who they are, this is how they operate. Maybe some of their motivations might be explored. And of course, we like to introduce some characters, especially your protagonist, and sometimes your antagonist. You never know. Another aspect of this in Section 1 of Act 1, you will introduce the inciting incident. This will be the story will not take place unless this thing happens moment of the story. Basically disrupts the protagonist's world. And the third point of Act 1, Section 1, will be the immediate reaction to the inciting incident. Kat uses a great example with the Hunger Games. Basically, the introduction is she's a hunter. She's we see her using her bow. We see that they live in a utopia, a dysphoria, dystopia environment. The inciting incident is ultimately the Hunger Games lottery. The sister gets picked, and she's like, "No, I will be tribute." And then the point 3 of that, the immediate reaction to the inciting incident, is her basically saying goodbye to her family, because she's like, "I will be the tribute," and then she has to say, "Bye, mom. Bye, sis. Bye, boyfriend." I guess boyfriend. Yeah, something like that. All right. So that is the recap of Act 1, Section 1. And this brings us to what should go in Act 1, Section 1. Think of Act 1, Section 1 about how do we set up the ordinary world. And you want to keep in mind, this is the time before their world is disrupted. This is the world they are comfortable with, the world they have routine in, the world that really... by the way, they don't have to have control in the sense of, like, for example, if you're a character that is clumsy or not liked, or you're the quote-unquote loser at school, or whatever the case may be, that's your controlled environment. Like, you're in your place, and you basically haven't taken action to disrupt that world. You've just kind of accepted it, and you live in that. You might think, I wish I could be A, B, and C. I wish I could stop the bully. I wish I could be cool. I wish I could go to prom. I wish I could, right? You could have these wishes, these motivations, but ultimately the ordinary world is before the world is disrupted by either taking action or something coming in and inciting the incident. All right. And during this time, you want to establish their day-to-day life. For example, if they're a kid and they get up, they say goodbye to their parents, they eat some food, they go to school, they get picked on, or they don't get picked on. Maybe they're like maybe they're a part of sports. Maybe they're a very popular kid, and they're really good at drawing. Whatever the case may be. Just show that, and then they come home and blah 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 blah. That's their ordinary world. Show their normal ordinary world. By showing the ordinary world, this will help you later on destroy it and disrupt it. So the more we can understand their ordinary world, the better the disruption will be for them. Key rules for your Act 1 would be: do not give away the whole plot, don't give away all the character motivations, or give away the story in general. This section is about setting up the narrative. So we want to set up some of their motivations, maybe tease their motivations. We want to set up the potential plot by basically saying, where are they? What is their conflict, right? And what do they want to resolve? And also, you don't want to give away the whole story. You want the pages to turn. You want the pages to turn, okay? All right, ordinary world. Let's do it. All right. I got pollen day. All right. What ordinary world elements should you have in there? Well, let's think about it. What is their life like in a way that will contrast from where they end up? All right. An example would be Luke Skywalker is a farm boy. The contrast is he becomes a fighter pilot in the rebellion. Right. Okay. Another thing is the readers. So just to work on that for a little bit, the ordinary the element is you want to show the contrast of the life they have versus the life they turn into. Luke Skywalker is a farm boy. He works on the farm with his uncle and aunt. He knows the terms. It's like his life. There's even a point where he looks at the two sons and he's like, "I yearn for ma." Right? But the contrast is he's not in space. He's on a desert island looking at space, but he's not there. And then when he's in space and he's a fighter pilot, we get it. All right. The reader needs to know who the character is without giving a lot away, answer some questions, and leave some unanswered during this section. Luke Skywalker is a good kid. He might whine about power converters, but we know he's respectful of his aunt and uncle, and his life is pretty straightforward without much interference from the Empire. What are we doing here? What questions are we answering, and what are we not answering? So with Luke Skywalker, we're showing you, and also telling you, hey, this is a good guy. He's respectful. He has aspirations. He has dreams. But we're not saying all of that. We might have the moment where he goes, I think there's going to be a point where I can go to the academy because the droids are going to be able to farm, and I would really like to do that. And the uncle's like, no, why don't you give me one more season and then you could go, right? But we're not really learning a whole lot about Luke. We're just kind of learning bits and pieces of things. And also, we get the moment where it's like, don't talk to Ben because he's a crazy old wizard, right? So another thing you want to do is set up the goal for the protagonist. I kind of just went over that. Luke wants to be a fighter pilot and explore the world by joining the academy. His best friend, he's already joined it, and he talks about how he's a good pilot and he could really, do more. He wants to do more. He wants to be more, And there's a moment where, like, the aunt's like, he's just like his father. And Ben's like, not Ben, Uncle Owen's like, that's what I'm worried about, right? Because, spoiler alert, his father is Darth Vader. All right. Another point you should do is your readers need to want to follow the protagonist through your story. You need to build a connection between them and your reader. Luke is us in a mundane life where we want more. More importantly, we can relate to his life even though it takes place in a in a time long ago in a galaxy far, far away. Right. So, ultimately, yes, it it takes place in a time long ago in a galaxy far, far away, and but we're on Earth. Right? By the way, that's interesting that it says that because that means Star Wars. Uh, even though it's futuristic, is actually like, that 80s technology in those planes, spaceships. I mean, makes sense now because how long did it take us to get the Commodore 64? Okay. Anyway, but we sometimes find ourselves in that mundane life. We go to a job we may like or don't like. Maybe we work for family, maybe we work for friends, maybe we work a job where we're just like we just want to go in and get out. But we have those dreams to be more, right? We have the desire to be more, and we know we're capable, just like Luke knows he's capable. And maybe there are people around you that you love and care about, as per Owen, the aunt and uncle, right? But they're discouraging to that, and we know what that feels like to want to be writers, and your family's going, it's a really nice dream to have, but you should have a plan B, right? So we can all relate to that kind of where Luke is in the beginning. Okay, you want to introduce themes of the story, environment of the world. An example is Luke is on a desert planet, there is an empire, they drink blue milk. I don't know what the point of I don't know what I don't know what the point of that was, but anyway, we learn about Luke's world. There's power converters without really being told about it. There's enough information for us to fill in the blanks. That's one of the that's I think that's what makes George Lucas a really fantastic screenwriter. Look, he's obviously made more money than I or most people in the world have ever made being a director. I think directing is probably his weakest skill, even though it's at a high level. But his writing is just amazing because he understands the audience is not dumb, even though there's that old misconception trope, right to a dumb audience, right? But we, there's things we don't need to know. We don't need to know what a power converter is. We don't need to know what C-3PO is being cleaned in when there's all you need to know is he's cleaning the robots. We don't really need to know what the lightsaber is, right? They just kind of say it's a sword, right? It's what a Jedi Knight uses. I know, and it's cool, right? There's certain things you don't have to explain in a story because it's not relevant to your narrative. And that's a really great tool to keep in your mind is what am I writing and is it relevant to the narrative? Does that mean you can't say I need to go get power converters? Not at all. But do you need to explain what power converters are? Only if the power converters are directly intimate with the narrative. Are the power converters a MacGuffin? Are the power converters which leads to the inciting incident? Whatever the case may be. But more importantly, how does it lead to the inciting incident? As in, does Luke need to know what he's talking about? So we need to know that he knows what he's talking about. So when he goes to sell it or buy a converter from somebody and they don't know what they're talking about, that is our in to know that maybe this person is not a power converter. So you have to think about what you're setting up with your story. It has to be relevant to the narrative. But it's really great to add your themes and your environment to the world. And again, you don't necessarily have to go deep into it. I know I kind of sidetracked on that. What do we got here? Let me fix that for you. Boom. Ooh. Gets blurry. It's like I'm not wearing my glasses. So. All right. I can't tell if it's blurry or I am blurry. But anyway. Not finally, but one thing before we go into the Shawshank Redemption example, where they come from is an element of filling in the parts we have not seen yet. All right, so that's a really nice thing you can add to the Act 1, Section 1 is where they come from. what do we need to know about where they came from? With Luke, we learned that Luke's father was a warrior and a cunning pilot. That's a terrible Obi-Wan voice. Anyway, just like Luke wants to be. So we learned that Luke's father was a warrior and a cunning pilot, just like Luke wants to be a pilot. And there's something about the Clone Wars and about his father being a Jedi. That's just enough information for us to go, I'm intrigued. They're not giving it all away. They're not really going into what the Clone Wars are, because again, it's not relevant to the narrative. We learned that his father was a warrior and a cunning pilot. We don't really need to go into how or why that's true. And of course, his father was a Jedi. But again, they don't really go into what a Jedi is, but they do go into what the Force is. And the reason that is because that's relevant. Why? I don't know. Maybe because Luke used the Force. Luke. At the very end, he uses the Force to shoot the thing into the thing. All right. So those are a couple things you should keep in mind for your ordinary world. I would like to boop. Okay, here we go. Yay. Let's do this. So this is Shawshank Redemption. If we're looking at Shawshank Redemption, if we're looking at that movie, this is just Act 1, Section 1. All right, there's 3 points. Okay, and the way it works is like this. All right, so the introduction to set up the ordinary world. Well, what is that? We learned that Andy is a banker and married. Okay, or more importantly, we learned that he was married because his wife is murdered. Spoiler alert. Red is denied parole. We watch Red being Red outside selling stuff, and he's basically known as the person who can locate things from time to time. This is very much their world. This is the world that Andy is in control of. All right, even though technically he's being arrested and being sent to jail, this is where he is. In fact, he didn't even take action to kill his wife and lover. He couldn't even take action to do that. The world is pushing him through his ordinary world. He's inactive. He has no confidence, right? But we know that he was married. We know that he was a banker, and that was like his identity. His identity was he was a banker and a married, and that's why there's a lot going on with that. Like he discovers who he is. In fact, there's a line later on in the movie where he's like, it's crazy when I was out in the real world, I was as clean as a whistle. I had to become a criminal. I had to come to prison to become a criminal. So, that's a really big moment as far as his character development, really. But Red, he's denied parole. It's his, if I remember correctly, it's his 20th year he's being paroled. It's parole. So in this situation, it's assumed that this is the second time he's been denied, because every 10 years, which is the system of the movie, because the next one is 30 years, he fails that. And, Andy gives him like a harmonica. Or as, right? It's from the Wizard, Black Sabbath. No. Anyway, so it's inferred that every 10 years he gets, but this is Red's life. He doesn't get paroled. And then he just does not even affect him. He just walks out. He goes, hey, I didn't get it. What do you guys need? Everyone's saying, hey, I got this bed. I need this. I need that. Because he's a guy who is known to locate things from time to time, right? That's their world. We're in it to win it. We get it. We see what they are. We see who they are. They're confident in their position. So Andy is technically confident in his position. He's accepted the consequences of his inactions to the point where his marriage failed and he couldn't even do anything to stop that. And he's a banker, really. And, his life, he didn't really fight like, hey, we can't find the gun. And he's like, I find that extremely inconvenient, I apologize. I only have Diet Pepsi today. Normally I have Diet Cherry Pepsi. Please forgive me. The inciting incident in Shawshank Redemption is Andy is falsely accused and brought to Shawshank Prison, where Red loses a bet that Andy will break the first night there as a fresh fish. Fresh fish, fresh fish. And lawless in by a mile, right? And then but anyway. So this is the moment. All right, Andy is brought to Shawshank. This is his inciting incident. We've seen his world, and now he's actually, he went to court, but he's actually going to prison. Like it's happening. He's being brought through those gates into this new kind of life. And red makes a bet that, hey, he's gonna break first. I look at that, piece of wind will blow that guy over, right? Which brings us, the immediate reaction is Andy does not break, and Red's impression of him changes. And there you go. That's the first section. All right. Feel free to look at that a little bit, write it down if you want, kind of analyze it. That's Act 1, Section 1, with your first 3 points. We're here to set up the ordinary world. All right. There you go. And of course, love you guys. So let's go to my final thoughts. Should I do my final thoughts in my Italian Brooklyn, Long Island accent? All right. So use Act 1, Section 1 to introduce the following: who a character is, what they want in life, where are they from, why they are here, and how they are in their ordinary world. Now, keep in mind, you want to limit that to maintain some mystery. Don't give it all away, but seed the hell out of that. I think they also call it planting. I call it seeding. I will always call it seeding, when you seed information to develop um, Brandon Sanderson, I think, calls it the promise, and then it's fulfilled, or whatever. I forget what word but he calls it a promise. I call it seeding. I call other people call it planting. It's when information is set into motion. Payoff. He calls it the payoff. So when it pays off, you can't just have things happen. Imagine we didn't know Andy was a banker, but then he's doing all this financial stuff. Like, it wouldn't make any sense. And like, if the guard, like, on the top of the roof was like, "You're that banker scumbag that killed his wife," like, if that was the first time we heard that he was a banker, that would be like a Deus Ex Machina, because it's just information that we need to know, so we're telling the audience, right? You don't want to do that. Anyway, another thing is, by being able to answer those questions of who the character is, what they want, where they are from, why they are here, and how they are in their ordinary world, we are able to create the world, motivation, plot. The plot develops from that without giving it all away. This is where you get to set the tone of your story as well. Basically, what is how are we going to look as readers? How are we going to look through your pages and see your world? When you read Dune versus Harry Potter versus Carrie from Stephen King. Did I really need to say that's from Stephen King? Like, we all know Carrie is. Anyway, there is a deep tone difference in all three of those books, and it's just the way it's written, the world they're in, and the feel you get just from the pace of that. And most importantly, make sure your audience likes the protagonist. They have to follow them around the whole time. So let this first section, technically Act 1, Section 1, 2, and 3, your job is to make sure your audience likes your character. But more importantly, Section 1 is really where you want your audience, because if they don't like them within the first 3 points of a 27-point story, you're going to lose the reader. And you want to stay with me and the characters. All right. Boop. So the next video in the series will focus on Act 1, Section 2, which will be problems disrupt the hero's life. Obviously, if you want to go into an in-depth, I have multiple videos on this. I have a video that kind of just explains what each point is in each section of each act. And then I have another video that uses that outlining formula and brainstorms in real time with no... I didn't think of anything beforehand. I just, in real time, I create a story using the 27-point outline. You can watch those videos. Both of those will be linked in the description below. Question to you, my audience. What film, show, or novel really pulled you in with its first act? Let me in the community know in the comments below. And of course, if you want to learn more about improving your craft, some insight on the industry, and hearing from fellow authors through interviews, please subscribe and hit that bell icon so you don't miss out. That's it. So till next time, keep developing the right mindset.